Hearing from experts on social media and our own expert telling you, Jason, that this is among the longest of the closing arguments that he's ever heard.
I believe we have Joe Tamburino with us. He is our legal analyst during the trial of Derek Chauvin. He's been with us throughout every moment of testimony, all of the hearings beforehand. He's a criminal defense attorney, not affiliated with the case. But Joe, remarkable length in both of these closing arguments.
Yes, in both arguments, they were quite long, especially now the defense. Normally in a murder trial, even in multiple count murder trials with tons of evidence, a closing should be no more than 90 minutes. Most are 60 to 75 minutes. And really, this should have been better trial management. You cannot expect 14 people to simply sit in their chairs all day with minimal restroom breaks, nothing to eat. Who knows if they even have water or a soft drink? This needs to have been managed better.
When you look at the defense closing statement here, Joe, they're still in the middle of it, but Eric Nelson spent quite a bit of time on use of force. Frankly, I feel like he spent more time talking about the use of force case in his closing than he necessarily did in his affirmative defense case. Tell us about the case that he made and whether you think it's compelling.
Well, he did have a good narrative talking about what is reasonable and what is unreasonable force. However, what you just pointed out is crucial. If this is so much important, then you have to deal with it in the case in chief. You don't want to deal with it in closings, because closings will rarely win you the case. You must do this when the trial was actually going on. So I thought his line of argument was good, but a lot of that should have come out in trial.
Joe, we saw a lot of the video throughout this, or the dash cam video, the surveillance video, the cell phone video. Were you surprised that Eric Nelson used so much of that in his closing argument?
Yes, because it's a double-edged sword. I mean, sure, you have to use some of the video to get a few points across, but playing it over and over and over and hearing this poor man dying, I don't think it was effective for the defense.
I mean, it is striking that what you're leaving the jury with is the sound of George Floyd calling out for help over and over again. And I understand what Eric Nelson was driving at, because this was video that certainly showed George Floyd giving those officers a rough time in the back of that squad car. But my goodness, the emotional toll on the jurors to have to watch that over and over and over. It's intense.
I agree. And come rebuttal, I mean, the rebuttal might just say, think of what the defense just played you, about an hour's worth of video of Mr. Floyd dying at the hands of Mr. Chauvin. I mean, this could totally backfire on them.
Joe, thank you for the analysis. We are in a 30-minute break, sort of a shortened lunch break in the middle of the defense closing statement here. We still have prosecutor rebuttal to come, and then the jury will finally get this case. We'll check in back with you again a little later. Joe Tamburino, thank you. Time now to check in with Esme Murphy, who continues our coverage of this case this afternoon. It's 2:15. Esme, very, very long closing statement. You're live outside the courthouse right now.
Well, Jason, one of the things that I couldn't help but think of as the closing statement went on and on was the fact that the second juror picked is a diabetic, and she specifically talked to the judge. They had a conversation during jury selection that she needed a break every 90 minutes in order to, register her blood sugar. So you had to wonder about that juror. Overall, I thought that this was the kind of presentation, and Joe Tamburino kind of touched on this. This was the narrative that I think we needed to hear from the defense, and this was the best time that we heard it, and yet these closing arguments are not supposed to be evidence. If he used the words reasonable officer once, he probably used it 100 times, but I thought he built a really good narrative from Mr. Chauvin's perspective about this is what the officer saw as he was approaching his car, and he played the video from Officer Chauvin's surveillance camera. So he was walking us through almost what Derek Chauvin might have testified to if he had testified. But of course, he didn't testify. And I think he also made an important point, saying that the prosecution is wrong to just focus on this 9 minutes and 29 seconds, that is completely inaccurate to focus on this. You have to focus also on the 16 minutes beforehand. And I think that is a good point, because that is a period at which time Mr. Floyd was resisting the arrest, and all the experts agreed that there was a point up until the time he was on the ground that it was clear to them, and again they all agreed, that there was resistance by George Floyd. So I thought this was a pretty effective presentation by Eric Nelson. I did worry about the jurors, though, who hadn't had a break in almost 3 hours.
Well, you could tell. I mean, the judge essentially interrupted Eric Nelson during his closing arguments. And so we don't know how much longer he had to go when he was talking about the cause of death. But just the simple fact that he spent almost 2 hours talking about this reasonable use of force, reasonable police officer, when that really wasn't much of the focus earlier on during the trial.
Well, I think what he was trying to do, if you kind of go back over it, I just couldn't help but think that this is what Derek Chauvin would have testified to. I walked up and I saw 3 officers grappling with this man who was much larger and they couldn't control him. And that's what I saw. So I immediately assumed this was a serious situation. I mean, just, hypothesizing that that's what Derek Chauvin would have testified to. But that's what it came across to for me. So I think that's what he was trying to do there. You're right, though, Heather, because he's getting into the meat of the testimony, and he says the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the toxicology had nothing to do with George Floyd's death. And I think those were some solid points, but it's the narrative of the larger picture of what Derek Chauvin would have seen in the entirety of arriving at the scene and then going through this, and not just the 9 minutes and 29 seconds, that I think is important to remember. And I thought Eric Nelson did a pretty good job with that.
2 other things that stood out, Esme. For the first time, I think we heard Eric Nelson acknowledge the word mistakes and tragic. He used the word tragic at one point, describing the death of George Floyd. And then he also said officers are human beings capable of making mistakes in highly stressful situations. And Esme, as you know from covering these sorts of cases against police officers, this is straight out of the textbook. This is 100% the defense. Okay. What's going on behind you?
Absolutely. Jabin, if I can interrupt you here, that looks like members of the George Floyd family, I believe. They are walking across. There is going to be, or it's Jesse Jackson, Reverend Jesse Jackson. He is getting help there. He obviously has been doing this for so many years. He was obviously a witness to Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination. He is clearly an older man right now. He is here. He was at the protest at Brooklyn Center last night. There is going to be a vigil, a prayer vigil during this break with Mr. Ben Crump, who is the attorney for the Floyd family. But Jesse Jackson amongst the civil rights leaders that are here, and he is somebody who has to be well into his 70s at this point. But we just saw him walk up. 79 years old, needed help there mounting that step. Sure. But obviously a lot going on here. There's a lot more action here right now, but I think you were talking about some of the points that Eric Nelson made. I thought overall, I think he did make a good presentation. I think he's got a ways to go, though. Yeah. I think that's pretty clear. And I think that when you said that he used the word tragic, it's the first time they've acknowledged that. And I wonder if this is an opportunity missed that the defense perhaps could have, at an earlier moment, signified that this is not something that the police officers ever wanted, to have somebody die. And I think that might be something that's coming in a little too late. And it's coming in right now on a closing statement that's not evidence. But I agree with you, Jason. I think that was a very important moment. And I was surprised that they didn't go there in the opening statements. I also thought it was really interesting how much time and how many times he said that the jurors should all read the instructions. And he went over the instructions and he went over the law again and again and again, much more than the prosecution did. It's clear that they really want this case, the defense wants this case to be about reasonable doubt and the presumption of innocence. And so that is something that I think was important for the jurors to hear, and that's something that he is asking them to do, and I think he will continue to ask them to do after we come back from this very shortened lunch break.
All right, Esme Murphy live for us at the Hennepin County Courthouse. Thank you.